How's it going out there? Trying to get this live stream going here a little bit. How you doing, Ryan? Yeah, national champion hat from back in 2005. So Sooners were playing SC. I think SC kind of had their way with them. You got any shooters out there? Well, that's good to hear. That somebody out there is watching them. Yeah, trying to get it going. Trying to help some folks out there. I'm not sure how much I'm helping, but I'm trying. So, yeah, I just got done with a couple of matches this last weekend. Didn't do too well, but um, went out and had a good time. That's the main thing to do is have a good time, even if you're not shooting all that well. Went over to Eastern Washington, shot a F class match over there. I haven't done too many of them. I think that was my fifth one over there in Rattlesnake Mountain. It's just a windy place to shoot, really windy. Yeah. You shoot one X and the next one, the wind doesn't look like it's changed, and you're out to the 7 ring. So uh, just did the best I could. Trying to learn the wind out there. I do pretty good in Benchrest shooting groups, but shooting for score has always been my weak spot. So I'm trying to get better at it by doing some F class matches. And places like Rattlesnake will either make or break you. So I'm hoping if I hang in there long enough, it'll improve my scores in the Benchrest and in F class too. So I had a good time. There's a good group of people over there. Had a real good time. And even though the wind was howling through there, we were supposed to shoot 5 targets, but we only ended up shooting 3 because the wind was blowing everybody's stuff away and got to be pretty challenging. So, but it was fun. So I still really enjoyed it. David Schmidt, I'm an FTR competitor and have trouble showing up for match with a tuned rifle. How do you make sure you show up with a tuned load? Thanks for your videos. Well, that's a tough one, especially if you're going to a different place. I think I ran into a little bit of that this weekend myself. You can tune your rifle here, at your local place, but if you can't tune it where you're shooting, it can be tough. So I try to outguess it, either that or go to the big matches. I always go a day ahead of time and try to tune in the local area there. So like when we go to nationals in NBRSA anyway, like the first day, like Monday, is a tune day. Just decide in your rifle and shoot a ladder. And for me, I shoot a ladder on that Monday and I see what's looking the best. And I go back and load back at the motel. I know what the powder is. Everything I do stays consistent. I don't change anything except for the powder. Once I figured out what my neck tension is, all of that stuff, everything stays the same. The only thing I change is the powder. My bullet stays into the rifling so far, usually between 5 and 10 thousandths, right in there. And I just always leave it there. Every time I'm done shooting, I come home, I clean the rifle, I recheck my touch point, and I readjust my touch point just to pull it out to be right there at the same spot. The only thing I have to do is add powder once in a while. But going to a match like I went to this weekend over in Eastern Washington, where it was real hot and real dry, it'll change your load. And sometimes you just kind of guess for it, and hopefully you hit it right. And well, this weekend I didn't hit it too well. But that's why I like NBRSA matches, the big ones. There's always a tune day, so you can check your load, make sure it's right. And if you're going to like a big F-class nationals or something, I'd recommend going a day early. If you can't tune there at that range, maybe you can go to a local range around there and just run a quick ladder test just to see what the difference is in powder between wherever you're at home compared to there. Because like I live in Washington, so if I head to Arizona, it's going to be hot and dry compared to usually cold and wet here. So you get a little bit of powder difference. I switched over to 284, 6.5 PRC. Yeah, I've been looking at that 6.5 necked up to 7 PRC. I've been looking at it quite a bit. I haven't completely decided to go that route. I might still yet. I ordered a bolt already, a Magnum bolt. So if I want to, hopefully that should be here pretty soon. And I've been watching, seeing how guys are doing with that cartridge, and it seems like most of the leaders are using that one. And I don't know if they're gaining a whole lot or if they're just great shooters that would have been there anyway with a 284. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it for myself, so it's kind of letting the dust settle a little bit, see what the general crowd. I know, the big F-class guys have all changed, so it's right there on my list to check it out. I just started with the 284, and I'm really working with that to try to get it working well. And if I think I can't keep up, well, then I'll definitely go for the change. But I'll probably stick with the 284 this year. F-class will mostly preload, so it makes it tough when you travel to change your powder and charge. Do you use a tuner at all? I've never used a tuner. Now, for these kinds of problems that I see in F-class, at preloading and flying and all these kinds of things, I can see an advantage to a tuner. Up to this point, I haven't used one because in Benchrest, I can bring them all my stuff and I can load right there. And I haven't been flying, I've been just driving. So it's been working out for me, but I do see a possibility of going that route later. I haven't had to preload. I preloaded for one match over in Montana, and I got my butt just kicked because I preloaded wrong, and I swore I was never going to do that again. And so the guys that were winning at that match were loading right there on the spot. They weren't even preloading, the night before. They were loading for the temperature at the moment. So they had all their data listed, and they were acting like it was a short range match, and they were loading right before they walked out there. I didn't do that, but I just learned that the later and the more data you can get, the better. Unless you can fly out there 1 year and just run a bunch of tests before or after the match and get your data sorted out, the difference between your powder at home compared to there. I know here between here in Washington and going to California, there's not a lot of powder difference. I thought there would be a whole lot more. And I really thought that I would have to subtract powder because it was so much hotter down there. But it was weird with the thicker air up here and the thinner air down there. I ended up reducing powder when I went, or I added powder, when I went to California. And in Oregon, it's pretty close to the same here in Washington. But you get to the hotter, drier climates, and things can change. And in Montana, it changed a lot. What changes in temp or elevation? Well, it's everything. Humidity changes a lot. Humidity and temperature. Those are the two main factors that I've seen. Altitude, I haven't really shot at too high of places for Montana, and I missed it real bad over there. So I don't know how bad that elevation changes things. But I know heat and humidity sure do. I know you test neck chamber clearance quite a bit, but what do you find is typically the best? I've never tested below down total clearance. Well, that's kind of a funny thing. Ryan's asking about the neck chamber. I shoot 3 different calibers. I shoot 6, I shoot 284, and I shoot 308, and I've got some hunting rifles too. And everyone that I've ever tested has been different, depending on what the caliber is. So depending on your reamer, your everything, do you have a no-turn neck? Do you have a turn neck? Do you have all of these different variables? So you just got to test that one. It's really tough, I learned from an old guy named Ted Larson. He's one of the best guys. When I showed up about 3 years ago, he was winning every match. He's just still winning. 80 years old. He's just kicking everybody's butt. And I sat down with him. I was brand new, and I was just looking for help because I was getting my butt kicked every day. And that's the first thing he talked about is neck clearance. He says, what are you shooting? I said, I'm shooting a 272. And he goes, what's your loaded round? I said, it's about a 268 or 9. He goes, well, you lost already. And he said, you got way too much clearance in there. And I just like, wow, it was his opinion that you got to tighten that up in the smaller cartridges, to get less clearance in there to get more accurate. And I started testing, and sure enough, he was right. And then I started testing my other calibers, which needed more clearance, so to find the sweet spot, you really gotta test for all of your cartridges. But the 6s, I can tell you need to tighten those up. But still, I would recommend testing, because every single time I've changed a reamer or changed anything, it's changed. So it just depends on what you're shooting, and then your brass makes a difference too. Like Lapua brass is real hard, whereas Peterson brass is a lot softer, so it expands when you fire at different rates. And so you got to test. I'd love to just say, oh, it's this number, but I don't know if you're shooting Lapua, if you're shooting Alpha, if you're shooting Peterson or whatever. But the Peterson stuff seems to be the most consistent in the smaller calibers for me. And jury's still out on the bigger one. I've just started down the 284 road. I've only been shooting it for, I don't know, not quite a year. And the limited testing I've done, it's been tough. And I'm not happy with my results at all. And I think I need a new reamer to get things straightened out. Reamer I'm shooting good, but I'm still not happy with it. I'm always looking for the best. And I think I've got to get a little tighter neck on there. So I'll let you know as things go. But just testing, try to get those necks. And now that I've got that different new amp press that's showing me my neck tensions as I'm seating my bullets, I've been playing with that and turning my necks thinner and thinner and thinner to see where it really starts getting more consistent. Wherever I see it start getting real more consistent, then I'm going to probably order a reamer to match that. That way, I'll have the best of both worlds. It's hard to turn for a neck size that you don't know you want it to be. So now that I'm getting more data, I'm thinking I need to tighten my neck up in there just a little bit more so I can get the brass a little bit thinner, so I can get more consistent bullet release with the proper amount of clearance. Because right now I'm having to turn it too thin. I'm getting too much clearance and it's opening up my groups. So it's a lot to think about, but it depends on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Do you sort bullets? If so, by what measurement? Yeah, I do sort bullets. I sort them 3 different ways. And first thing I sort is, I guess it could be based ogive. That's the first thing I do. The length of the bullet, I think, is the most important. Honestly, I don't think the tip is as important, the tip measurement, but the based ogive measurement, I've always checked that. And every time I've sorted my bullets that way, they've come right in, And I don't throw any of them away. I just batch them. So if you got a group of short ones, shoot the short ones together, the medium ones together, the long ones together, and just batch them up that way. And then after I'm done with that, I've got a concentricity gauge. I check them all to see if there's any of them that are just all out of balance, or whatever you want to call it, too thick of jackets on them. And I check them that way. Anything that really looks bad, they go in the cider pile. Everything else stays there. And I just started tipping this last year, and I did have my groups get smaller. Nationals last year, I think, I gotta remember off the top of my head, in 2022, my best groups were right around 2 inches. Now that was in the California wind, so it was, right around 2. My overall ag, I'm trying to remember, at 600 was something like 2.4, if I remember right. Well, this year it came down when I took the bullets, and I shot 1.5, 1.7, 1.8. Right under, in between 1.5 and 2 was the bulk, and I think my overall ag came down. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was down a little bit from tipping my bullets. So every little thing adds up. Not one thing is like brings it all down perfect, but every little thing adds just a little bit more. So yeah, sorting bullets, tipping bullets, that was all new for this year. The first 2 years I didn't do any tipping, I didn't do anything. I just pulling things out of the box, and I went based ogive measurement. I think that's the most important one. So if you're not using anything else, I would do that. And my group's not come down a whole bunch, especially if you're in a windy condition place. The only time you see your groups really go down small is when the wind dies, and they can really be consistent. But otherwise, the wind will open them up. Just 1 mile an hour of wind at 600 yards, you're talking an inch, just blowing them up, open up your group. So testing on perfect cone days can really give you good insight of what's going on with them. But if the wind's blowing, you got to test multiple times to double check everything. To use tuners? No, I have never used a tuner. So up to this point, I can just tune the rifle and it shoots. I can understand why guys in F-class use tuners. I really can, because if they've got a preload and they're in one state and they're flying to Arizona and shooting that hot, dry weather down there, and their load from home is not working so well, I can see how that tuner could help them dial in their load. But for me, I'm usually tuning either the day before the match, or at the match, or I've got data from different places that I've shot that I know it's going to work, depending on the temperature and that sort of thing. So, but no, I haven't used a tuner. I'm not saying they're bad, but I just haven't had the necessary thing for me. And another reason I don't use a tuner, to be quite honest, is because it's just another cost. I think I checked the cost of tuners out. I think, don't remember exactly, 350 bucks or something. Plus you got to pay the gunsmith to thread your barrel. By the time you're all done, you're somewhere in the $500 range. And I can get a whole nother barrel for that. So me, cost effectiveness and all that kind of thing, and only have so much money. I just haven't wanted to put out the money for one. But somebody that's got a little extra dough, I don't blame you if you go grab one. It probably help you out. But for me, I just do it the old-fashioned way and get a tune on there. You test different primers, or you just have a favorite one you use all the time? Well, that's part of my testing. I'm always testing. I just ordered more primers, a different kind, and so yeah, I'm always testing, always testing. As far as the nationals go and 6mm, 6PRA, the ones I like the best are the CCI Magnum primers. Are they the 450s? I believe they are. And yeah, those things just are great. I've tried the BR, what are the BR4s? I think they are CCIs. You pay twice as much for them, but I don't see a lot of benefit for them. They'll shoot the same, so I get the cheaper ones. So, but that's just me. I bought, I think Bruno's Shooter Supply had a lot of 10,000 of them for sale, and I bought 10,000 of them. And I've been shooting them all this time, and they've been working fine. I haven't found the need to get a better one. Now, in my large rifle primers for my 284, I'm still sorting that out. I haven't got enough shooting done with my large primers to know for sure. I've been shooting the Federals, but I just got some CCIs, and I'm going to try those. Some of you guys probably have been shooting those things longer than I have, know what's working better, but I don't know until I test. And I really have a hard time just taking what somebody says to the bank without me going out and testing it all first. So it's kind of what I do there is just testing. Once I get a load, and then I can start switching between primers to see if I can dial something in or if it proves a little better on good days. But that's after the load's pretty much done and set. I might have to tweak it up and down a little bit if one primer's a little hotter than the next, but most of the time, either they're working better or they're not. And you can tell pretty quick just by loading them up and going and testing them. So, yeah, some good stuff. I'm glad to see some guys on here without even giving any notice. I just was trying to figure out how this thing works and turned it on, and good to see some guys out there. Have I missed anything there? Temp, elevation, neck chambers. Yeah, that 7 many rounds on a new barrel to typically see the speed up level drop off. Usually somewhere's around 100. I've had some settle in at 75 and some not till 150, but I'm not going to go to a big match, like Nationals or something, until 150 rounds is on that barrel. And then I'm going to do my final tuning. And I don't think I've gone to a Nationals yet where I didn't have 200 or 250 rounds on that barrel, making sure it's sped up and dialed in and right exactly what I want. I hear guys out there saying they don't bother breaking in their barrels and all this kind of thing. Well, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know about all the shooting and cleaning, if that's actually helping, if that's what they're meaning. But as far as rounds down the barrel, you gotta let it settle in and quit speeding up. You just have to. I don't know. Yeah, I know guys that shoot some short range matches and stuff where they don't shoot that many rounds, you know, and they can take it out and just go out and shoot, but they're changing their load constantly throughout the whole match because they load each round, and they can kind of adjust for the speed up of the barrel by doing that. But boy, that's a lot of guesswork. It's way above my pay grade. I can't do that. I'm happy to keep it, you know, settled in once it's broke in. And once your barrel's broke in, and if you keep your seating depth exactly the same every single time, your neck tension's the same every single time, and as the bullet works its way out, you just have to start adding a little bit of powder. And you don't have to add a lot of powder. You know, you can probably stretch your bullet out, you know, 3-4 times before you really have to put more powder in there before you go out of your tune window. So it's not usually something that's typically going to happen in just one weekend. It's going to happen over a month's worth of shooting, and then you do run another powder test and you see, oh, you need to add a little powder in there. Let's see. Are you trimming your bullets before pointing? 6mm, no, they're so small already and they're so close. I just put a little tiny point on them. That's all I did. And I was afraid to start shortening them. They're so fine already. These custom bullets are really nice. I just wanted to tighten up the tip a little bit. That's all I did. Now the 284 Burger bullets, yeah, those are a little bigger and they're a little more of a messed up tip. So I trimmed about half of it off and tipped them, and it seemed to work pretty good. That's all stuff I'm still working on. I just got that stuff, I think, in, let's see, I think I got that stuff in February. So I haven't had it very long. And I got the Hoover trimmer. I got the 7mm and the 6mm inserts. And that Hoover is pretty good. It works nice. But I noticed real fast you can smash your bullet down and bulge them out if you try to tip them too much. So I've just been playing with that a little bit, keeping it just a little tiny bit of a tip on there, just to shrink up the little hole a little bit. But, yeah, it depends on how far out you're shooting. I think it'll really help at 1,000, but at 600, I don't know. I've got the machine, little tool there, so I might as well try it. And I think it helped a little bit. Brooks take 300 rounds once, but most are done speeding up at 100 to 150. Yeah, that's kind of what I've found too. You know, I haven't had any go 300 rounds yet, but usually somewhere around 100. I hate to say it, but 150. But I'm not gonna rush out there to a big match and try to shoot something that's not broken. I don't know how some of the other guys out there on the internet are saying they never break their barrels in. I don't know how they're getting away with that. I really don't. I'm assuming they're meaning they're not shooting and cleaning, but I'm sure they're still getting the rounds on the barrel, before a big match. Those guys have been shooting a long time. They know that they're going to speed up. Everybody just been shooting any length of time knows that they're going to speed up. What trim length clearance do you run? Trim length clearance. I'm not sure what that means. Trim length clearance. I'm not sure what you mean, Chris. Trim length clearance. I don't know what that is. How do I decide when my barrel shot out? Well, as far as I'm concerned, every barrel is never done. There's always another use for it. I mean, when it's completely done and it's got 4,000 or 5,000 rounds in it, you can still fire form it. So the chamber doesn't change. It's just, the throat grows out so far. So you can still fire form with that barrel. Hopefully you're backing your loads down when you're fire forming anyway. You can still, as long as it's pinching the case in there and holding the case tight in the chamber, you can fire form. Or I don't know how I haven't stopped shooting a couple of my barrels, but that's all I use them for is fire forming. But as far as ultimate accuracy, I shoot them until that's why I say I've got practice barrels, I've got local match barrels, and I've got national barrels. So my national barrels, those are like 1,000 rounds max because I know the most accuracy is in there. After that, I just use them for local matches for the next couple 1,000 rounds. And local matches for me, I'm usually testing something. I'm not necessarily going out there with my best stuff. Like this last weekend, I shot over at Rattlesnake, and I don't have my best barrel on there. And I'm trying some different bullets, and I'm trying some different powders. And so sometimes, these, local matches, I don't do so well, but I'm learning what's working and what's not working because, I mean, even when I'm practicing, I don't necessarily want to go run 100 rounds through my barrel. So like this last weekend, I was also down in Portland, and I was running some rounds down there, and I was trying a different powder and trying a different bullet. Well, in my limited amount of practice, it shot good. When I got down there and I was on my third target, I think, and all of a sudden I started getting that heavy bolt lift because, things were heating up too much. And that's all things I got to find out in local matches. The local matches, that's where I'm testing all that stuff because I don't necessarily just go down and shoot 600 or 60 or 100 rounds practicing. I'm usually doing load development, trying to get something to work, and then I go test it in a local match to see if it works that way. And so that's all. Like today or this weekend, I found out real quick. No, that powder that I was using heating up too much. You get a heavy bolt lift, and especially in Benchrest, you're trying to get your rounds off and you're fighting the bolt, and all of a sudden, it just messes you all up. And that's what happened to me. I think I finished in last place down there in Portland because my light gun, I was fighting it all over the place. I switched guns for heavy guns and went back to my 6. And my 6 was shooting fine, and I actually shot the smallest group in heavy gun. I shot a 2.4-inch group in heavy gun, but I shot it with my 6, and it was, by then I'd already blown the match anyway. In light gun, I was shooting 5-inch groups in light gun, and it was just not shooting well. It was heavy bullet lift, threw me all out of sync, and had a heck of a time. But that's what the local matches are for. I go out and try your stuff, and see if something new is going to work better. And all the testing every month. I don't know. I go to 2 or 3 matches a month, and I'm testing. So by the end of the year, you gone to 30, 40 matches, and we tested all these different things you wanted to test and see if they work out. And hopefully you got it figured out by the time the nationals can begin. That's what my goal is to try to put my best stuff forward right there, So I bought some used bullets, not used, but used from a guy that quit shooting or something. And I bought 10 boxes, or not 10, but I bought 600 bullets off of them. But they're old. They're old case. They're like a really old lot. And I measured them out. They didn't even measure close to the same as with the new lot of bullets. And I went and shot those anyway, just to try them. I don't know if it was the bullets or the heavy bullet with the powder or whatever it was, but it wasn't working. That's all I know. So what do we got going here? Preferred bullet weight, barrel twist, number of grooves. All my barrels are 4-groove, 284, 6mm. That's all I've run is 4-groove. I haven't ventured off into anything else. I'm not saying they're no good. I haven't tried them, but all of mine are 4. So as far as bullet weight, in 6mm, I've had the best luck with 103s. But that's just me. I know a guy I just shot against this weekend, and he kicked my butt shooting Burger 108s. Those Burger 108s and Varget, they just shoot good. So a lot of it's the shooter. I mean, we're talking a national champion shooter that beat me and kicked everybody's ass in shooting that this weekend. So a lot of it, you got to realize, is the shooter getting the rounds off knowing exactly when to shoot. Yeah, I mean, he read the wind perfect. He hit them dead nut with really good groups, and I think he won, I think, whatever it was, 10 out of 12 categories. He was in first. So it's, a good shooter can use lesser equipment and still overcome. And that's why I talked about a little bit about what other guys are doing and what works for them, and then what I consider is optimal, kind of like the neck clearance inside the chamber, the very first video I put out there. There's some really good shooters that shoot no-turn necks. Now, is that what I think is optimal? No, but these guys are good. I mean, really good, better shooter than I am, but they can make it work, even though I think they could do better, but that's their business. They don't want to hassle turning necks. They don't like it. They don't want to do it, and they're making it work without. So they're doing really good just by becoming a better shooter. And I put a couple of videos out there on practice and all that kind of thing. I think that's the second leg of the whole thing is practice, and getting better. And even if your stuff isn't perfect, if you're still centering them up because you read the wind perfect and everything, it's group and score and Benchrest, not just score, not just group, it's both. So, both those things really help. That's why you see me over Rattlesnake fighting 30-mile-an-hour winds this weekend, trying to get better at reading the wind, get better at centering them up. It all comes into play. So bullet weight, barrel twist. My barrels are 8 twist. So 4 groove, 8 twist. That's what I'm shooting in 6mm. All Krieger barrels, they've been shooting great. I don't see any reason to change. So they're all, every time I put a Krieger on there with my same Reamer, I mean, it's almost exact same load every time. It's just amazing. I don't know how they do it from one barrel to the next, but all I know is if I keep shooting those, I know I can almost load up the same load as the last barrel. I know it's going to shoot. And I mean, of course, I do my barrel break in and everything. Once I'm done, it's usually pretty close. The last 3 nationals shooting the same Reamer with 3 different barrels, and each barrel was within 1/10 of a grain of powder. So that's why I shoot Krieger barrels, because they're just really consistent, really good. And so I'm really lucky to have the Reamer that I have, because the Reamer that I have is just really good. It's top notch. So I'm just really happy to have that, because everything falls off the Reamer, and I'm still chasing it in the 284 realm. Whether or not I'm going to be happy and consistent with that in the end, I don't know. I'm going to have to at least order one more Reamer to straighten out my 284 stuff, and whether or not I do that or not, I don't know. I might change to the 7 PRC, 6.5 neck up to 7, and so I'm bouncing that back and forth, because you think just to change a caliber, even if the bullet's the same, the powder's the same, the primer's the same, you still got to order the Reamers. You got to have your barrels chambered. You got to order new dies. You got to order the new Reamer, and you got to order all new brass. And by the time you order all that stuff, it's at least a couple $1,000 just to change chambers. That's not even building the rifle. The rifle's still the same, just another barrel, new Reamer, all that stuff to go with it. So, like I said, if I don't see a little more improvement with my 284 over this summer, then I'll probably go that route. But probably not till next year, though. I'm pretty much tapped out on money for this year. Exclusively Krieger. Yep, that's what I shoot, is Krieger. They're just been great. I can't complain about them at all. They're just shooting perfect. I don't have any complaints at all. I'm just going to stick with what I know works. Once I find something, I kind of like my seating depth, when I know what that is, it's staying there. I know some guys consider that chasing the lands and all that kind of, I don't consider it that. I consider it leaving it exactly the same place in relation to the rifling every time. When I find out what works, that's where it's going to stay. You know, kind of like Krieger barrels. If it works from one barrel to the next. That's where I'm going to stay until it stops. Why change? I mean, it's just been working great. So I don't want to change what I know works. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I've tried, even though it's kind of like in the local matches, I might try a different barrel out on there and go try it. But if it's not outperforming the Krieger barrel, then why change? And over the last couple of years, I haven't changed at all. I've just stuck with them because they've been working so well. And I don't know, 4 national titles with Krieger barrels is it's pretty good. Even if I never win another match, it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy. I don't want to change what's worked, you know. And also, you know, Bart's bullets, 3 years in a row with Bart's bullets at the 600. So it's pretty good. You know, I can't, you know, I've tried the other ones and they're really close. I think I said in the video, I was really close to trying another bullet this year, but I couldn't do it. I stuck with the Barts and they hung in there and did well. Well, how are you guys doing? Any more questions out there? Looks like we're slowing down a little bit, but it's been pretty good first effort here. So without any notice, just whoever was on there, it's pretty good. Happy to see you guys on here. So hope I can do a few more of these in the future. If you got no more questions, I'll wait another minute or so, see if anybody's got anything else they're wondering about. I'm still wondering what this trim length clearance. I wonder if you're talking about brass trim length. Is that what you're talking about? Brass trim length? Well, my brass, I usually measure it when it's brand new. If that's what you're asking, Chris. I measure brass when it's brand new, and whatever that is, that's what I keep it trimmed at. I don't let it grow out. I don't trim it shorter, or just whatever it is, brand spanking new, that's where it stays. And so I trim it back to there. And I try to keep all my cases the same length. And I don't have one of those fancy trimmers. I use a Frankfurt Arsenal case prep trimmer tool. And it's got, you know, the big hole in the middle where you trim, and then it's got the little chamfer deals on either side and a brush in the middle. And that's all I've been using. I know they got some fancier ones out there for $600, $1,000, but I've been using that Frankfurt Arsenal one, and it's been working fine. And I don't think it slows me down that much compared to the fancy ones. So it's been working good. I do believe, though, that keeping your cases all the same length, I think that helps out. I really do. I remember going to one match when I first started really getting things to start working a couple of years ago, and went to a match in Portland, and somebody asked me there, said, "Oh, what'd you do different this match than last match?" I said, "I didn't do much. I got a good tune on here, but I did try trimming all my cases to the same length." And he said, "Oh, that doesn't matter." I said, "Oh, okay, well, one way or another, they're all the same length." Well, that particular match, I won, I think, 11 out of the 12 categories. You know, I pretty much clean sweeped all but one category for that match. And I shot pretty much the exact same load that I shot the month before. The only difference was I trimmed those cases, and they just shot phenomenal. And I'm just like, well, I don't know if I ever had to win that much better or anything, but my groups were the best, and it was just one great day of shooting. And so ever since then, whether anybody else says it doesn't matter, I'm trimming my cases just because that's what I do. If I see something I think it caused me to shoot better, then I'm going to keep doing it. You know, some things I've tried, you know, seem to help at all and maybe make it worse, and I don't necessarily do that. There's a lot of steps I hear other guys doing that I don't do. But that's one that I do. Do you set neck tension with a expander mandrel or bushing? Well, I do both. I use a bushing, and then right before I load, I use a mandrel. I just want to verify that they're all right. Now I don't bump it out. I mean, if I use my neck tension comes from my bushing, but then different brass, whatever, maybe you don't get them all exactly turned perfect exactly. So I just want to verify that they're all what they are. So in other words, I don't go bumping them out a thousandths or anything, but I've got a mandrel that fits perfectly into that hole. I want to just make sure there's not one a little tighter or looser, and you can feel that as you're going through doing them all. You can feel if one's really loose, it's too big, and if one's really tight, I might set those aside for siders. But that's one way I can tell if all my neck tensions are going to be really, really consistent. And now that I've got the power press, whatever the heck that thing's called, to verify, I can see on the computer whether or not they're coming out nice. It makes a difference to just do that last mandrel step before you're done. Now, I've heard guys say, don't do that, you're overworking your brass, but I've done that, and I've had really good success doing it. So if I'm overworking my brass, well, I don't know what to say, but that's what I do. What type of sand do you use in your bags? How hard are they? Well, I use heavy sand. I want my bags as heavy as they can be. I don't want them moving around. I don't want them moving anywhere. But that being said, in the ears, I put a little bit softer sand in there, and you can still use the heavy sand, but just don't fill them up as tight. And so the ears can flex a little bit on the rear bag, and on the front bag where they rest in the rest, those little bags, I don't make those real hard either. I make it so the bags kind of settle in there. So that's what I do with that. Don't have really hard, rigid bags where it's, I kind of want things to settle in there. So that's the way I do it. It's kind of a feel thing. It's kind of got a squish on there, feel that it's not too hard or too soft. Let's see. Amp press. Yeah, that's it. The amp press. The thing's, it's good. That amp press is what's got me really looking at, my brass for my 284 and thinking, I'm not liking what I'm seeing on my 284 brass as far as consistency. Now my 6mm stuff, that stuff's right on, and that's probably why I've shot so well, because it's right on the money. But I've got to work with the brass for the 284, and I don't think that's going to change. That's why I'm a little bit leery if I change the 6.5 neck up to 7 PRC. So I'm going to have to go through all that again. And I think I'm real close. If I order one more Reamer for my 284, tighten that neck up a little bit, I think I might be there. And I'm still out to lunch or whatever. Jury's out whether or not that extra 100 feet per second that the guys are getting with their 6.5 PRC necked up to 7. I mean, I know they're shooting fast, but do you really need all that speed if you're shooting really accurate? I don't know. I'm not an F-class guy. I'm really not. So I'm just kind of sticking my nose in there and checking it out. I know in Benchrest, all that speed means nothing. It really doesn't. It's accuracy. Can you group them tight? And can you center them up? Centering them up and grouping them tight really doesn't have much to do with how fast you're running. I mean, I know for a fact I'm running my bullets slower than everybody else out there. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at my groups. They're just awesome, You group them at 600 yards, 1.5 inches and 2 inches consistent. I don't know why I need to get a whole bunch more velocity. I don't think that's the key. The answer is in the tuning. Tuning is getting them to shoot tight, getting them shoot good. Now, shooting one shot at a time in F class, and you're not shooting for groups, you're only shooting for score. Is that really going to help you, or you still need the accuracy? So I'm not positive on that. I can understand the argument of shooting faster, to hold the wind, but if it's not as accurate, I don't. See what I mean? It's okay if you can shoot faster and get more accuracy, then I think you're gaining something. But if you're getting just faster just to go faster, but the accuracy goes away, then I don't like that at all. I'd rather have a more accurate round and me try to read the wind. That's where my brain's at today. And maybe in a few years when I get more F-class experience, maybe I'll change my tune. I don't know. But right now, I just know accuracy wins, So the real windy day out there is going 100 feet. I mean, you think about it. You're going 2,800 feet per second. That's pretty fast. Now go 2,900. What? It's the percentage difference of speed increase there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but it just seems like it's a small number. I mean, percentage-wise, you're not 50% faster. No, you're only like, percentage-wise, what is it? Only maybe 2% or something. I'm not sure what that is, but is that really going to matter? I don't know. Maybe it will. What Reamer brand do you use? I've got the what is it, RGS over in Oregon. I've gotten several Reamers from them. They've all been good. That's the only place I've bought my Reamers from. Real nice people. Just call them up on the phone and tell them what you want, and either that or they've got Reamer prints. You can just print out, write your numbers down, and send it to them, or call them up and tell them, or you can fax them your print after you've wrote your numbers on there, or you can email your print to them, whatever you want to do, and just make it right to what you want. It's pretty good. It takes, I don't know, 3-4 months to get one, but not overly expensive. I'm trying to remember what I paid for the last one. I have somewhere around $300. I can't remember exactly, but that's where I've been going. Carbide Reamer, yeah, I get the best one they've got. So yeah, it works good. All I know is I've been using them and they work good. So I know there's Pacific Tool, I think, makes them too, but I've never used them, so they might be fine too. I don't know. There's probably others besides, but I've only been shooting for 3 years competitively. 4 years, I learned to load 4 years ago. So the Reamer thing has just been over the last 3 years, and trying a different one each year and comparing to the new. And now that I've got an idea what really helps, when I shoot one, I can kind of see how the brass is reacting and what's going on. I know what changes to make them better. When I first started, I didn't have a clue. I listened to a lot of guys talk about all that stuff, but they didn't seem to really give the details. So I just started kind of guessing and just see what happens. What happens if I do this? Does it help? And it doesn't. And I started, after a couple of them, I started realizing what really makes a difference. And a lot of it is that chamber clearance. What your brass kind of dictates that, what kind of brass you're shooting, how thin you got to make the neck in order to make it shoot right, or is it soft enough and pliable enough to hold the bullet consistently and get consistent release case after case. And once you figure that out, now you can order your Reamer to match your case. And that's what I found is the most best way to do that. Can't stress enough, guy Ted Larson, he gave me a lesson that has just paid off huge. When I first started shooting, he shot a 30 BR and he shot zero clearance, zero. Well, of course, he's shooting for score. He's not shooting fast, so he can load them in there slow, but zero clearance. And he didn't even resize his case. He shot it, cleaned it, put another primer in there, put the bullet in there, powder and bullet in there, and went out and shot it again. He didn't even want to touch that thing with a reloading die. He just wanted everything perfect. It expand and contract, and the way it contracted, it was just enough to seat the next bullet. And that's the way he shot. And he went into great length and details about that neck in that chamber expanding out to get the proper explosion. He didn't want any blow by coming back into the chamber. You think you got a great big huge cartridge in there and a great big huge chamber, and it explodes, and then you got all the blowback because there's pressure going forward. But if it can't all go forward, then it blows back into your chamber and in your face and everything else. I mean, that's kind of drastic explanation, but any leakage back coming back at all causes inconsistency in your bullet release. So you think about it, you got a whole bunch of clearance where you hear these guys shooting no turn necks, all that blow by coming back can't be as consistent as a perfectly made neck to form fit your chamber so everything seals and everything goes forward. It's so important. And I proved it to myself because I didn't know if what he was saying was, and I went out and tested and tested and tested. My first year, I think, honestly, I wasn't very good at turning cases, but I think I shot and turned 500 cases that first year just in 6mm, trying everything I could do. And granted, a lot of those 500 that I turned, I didn't turn them very well because I was new at learning how to turn necks. But once I got a system down that worked and really started getting consistent results in different thicknesses, I could see what was working the best. I could see, if you look on your case after you fire it, you'll see a carbon ring on the neck. And if you've got too much clearance, you'll see like blow by. If you've got perfect clearance, you'll see where that expansion, and it'll be a perfect carbon ring seal all the way around. But if you got too much clearance, it'll blow by. You won't have that perfect seal carbon ring all the way around. And every time I found a case that's sealing like that and shooting like that, it's tough to beat. That's all I can say. Every time I've had that working for me, proper clearance, proper everything, proper sealing, I've won every time. So I don't know. Is it all that's causing the winning? I don't know. There's so many factors. There's so many factors. Like I said, there's some guys out there just really good at what they do. I mean, Bart from Bart's Bullet, Bart Salter, he's just one heck of a shooter. And he shoots a no-turn neck, so everything I'm saying doesn't make any difference to him. He goes out and wins with his no-turn neck. So I just think he's a really good shooter. I think he's out shooting the problems that he's got in his chamber. I think he could even be better if he would do what I'm saying. But he's convinced he's doing it the best way, and I'm convinced I'm doing it. So that's the way the world is. Everybody's got their own ideas. So you can keep on thinking about all that stuff, and everybody's got their own way, and that's what makes the world turn. That's what makes everybody go out there and see who's doing the best, I think. But I just think Bart's a better shooter than I am, but I think my rifle's outperforming him. So it equals out. I've never actually shot against Bart, but I've seen his results, and he's a Hall of Fame shooter. He's great, so yeah, there's nothing you can say bad about it. He's great. He makes awesome bullets too. What do we got here? How many times do they last? I'm assuming you're talking about the Reamer. Depends on your gunsmith. If you got a good gunsmith that pre-drills your chamber and they're just using it for a finish Reamer, they'll last lots of time. If you got a gunsmith that just takes the reamer and just uses that, doesn't pre-drill. I don't know, but my barrels, I think I've only got 10 on it so far. It's still doing just fine. So I don't know, but I'm guessing I can get twice as many out of it as I've already got. But you'd probably do better asking a guy like Alex Wheeler that question. He's doing chambering barrels all day. I mean, that's what he does pretty much now, is chamber barrels. He would know that answer. I'm not a gunsmith. I just have my own reamer, take it there, and they do it. Yeah, very soon as we start playing with custom reamers. It's not that advanced. I mean, I don't know. Even anybody listening to this cast can go onto the JGS website and download their reamer print blank, and you can look at the reamer print that you've got, and you can transfer most of those numbers over and just change the areas that you want to change. You want to tighten it up and make a little tighter neck, or you want to change how long the case is, add a little more power. You want to change the angle on your shoulder, like 30 BRs, 30, I believe. BRA is 40 degrees, different things like that, depending on what you're trying to, it's all stuff that kind of gets interesting when you really start looking at it. And of course, sometimes you guess wrong and it doesn't work. But usually even that data leads you towards what's going to work. It's kind of like this last 284 one that I've got. It's shooting really well. Don't get me wrong. I'm probably more nitpicky over anything. I just think it can be better. I really do. I mean, I shot good at nationals and I won at nationals, but I'm still playing with my stuff when I'm at home, and I can see that neck isn't consistent as I think it needs to be, or could be, to be better. So that's my goal for next year, is to try to get that part straightened out. So maybe it'll be better and maybe it won't. I don't know. I can always load up what I did last year and go shoot that again if I can't get it better. But that's what I do. I'm always testing and trying new things and trying to get something to shoot better. And just look for little areas like that and try to figure it out. Okay, what do I got to do to get this neck tension more consistent? And it just depends on what it is. You can either go to a different case. Different case can be a little thicker, maybe get the same tension. That's what I did with my 6BRA. The Pula cases were just so hard. I switched to Peterson. I found it so much softer, so much nicer, and I got perfect consistent release, and it just resized perfect and coming out perfect. Whereas the Pula is just so hard. I had a hard time getting that consistent. So I might have been able to get it more consistent if I order another reamer with a tighter neck. You get a tighter neck on there, and then it'll thin it up, and maybe it'll be more consistent. But I was having such good luck with Peterson brass, I just stuck with that. And so far, it's been working great. What we got going here? Shoulder bumping. I don't bump very much. I bump just barely enough, just so it clears. So I showed you guys how to take your bolt apart. Just take your case when it's brand new fired and turn it, or just squeeze a full length size down on it, and don't even bump the shoulder to begin with, and stick it back in there and see if it falls. And it probably will, because you got spring back on your brass. Every time you fire, it expands and it springs back. You don't have to bump that shoulder back too much to get, so your bolt will just fall. If you take the firing pin out, you take the ejector out, just to get it to fall. And if I feel it dragging just a little bit, I'm going to go another half a thousandths or thousandths from that. But overall, I usually only bump my cases back about a thousandths, because the spring back already has it back, and it's usually barely still dragging. You go another thousandths from there, and it's usually falling free and clear. And that's what I want. I want it falling free and clear. I don't want any dragging in there. especially in Benchrest, because you got to shoot so fast. They need the chamber slam in there and slam out. They can't have something dragging. So that's what I do for shoulder bump. How far down the neck do you see your carbon ring? Half or 3/4, something like that. Depends on what caliber I'm shooting. Yeah, somewhere's in there. Depends. It depends on which case it is and how thick your neck is, and all of that stuff comes into play. How far down the neck do you see your carbon? Oh, the same one. Okay. Yeah. So I think the longer the neck, the further out the neck, the carbon ring is going to be when it seals. And if you got a shorter neck, it's going to be down in further because it's got to reach out further. And it all depends on how much clearance you have too. So if you got a real tight one, it's going to seal up closer. If you got one with more clearance, it's going to probably seal out a little further, just depending on all of that stuff. So everything comes into play inside there, depending on what chamber and what clearance you got and all that kind of thing. So, but I believe in tighter neck, the better, in order to make sure you can get your optimum clearance. So you have to start playing with your clearances to figure that out. And once you start seeing what your clearances are that work the best for you, you can start thinking about the next reamer you want to order to adjust their neck to match that. And so that's where experience starts coming into play. There's guys been doing this for 30 years. They know all this. It's all new to me, so I'm still happy to talk about it. But old guys, it's old hat. They already know all this stuff. But I don't know. There's a new trend out there of no turn necks, and guys just happy to do that, and they don't want to turn necks, and I don't blame them. Turning necks is pain, especially you spend a week out there, 2 weeks sometimes, because I get bored of sitting there turning necks. I can only turn so many a day, and I get bored, and I got to get up and go do something else. So you can spend weeks just turning cases, and then you got to waste your time with powder and primers and bullets, just fire form in them all again, just to get them. So it is a big hassle, and it is a big waste of components. But in the end, I still think it pays off, at least for what I've been doing. Do I test primer seating depths? Yes, I do. It's just another one of those tests. I bought the 21st Century priming tool that's got an adjustable click and depth deal, so you can adjust how hard you're pushing them up into the case. And it's another one of those deals. It's almost exactly like neck clearance. Start at 1, 2, 3, and 4 thousandths, crush all the way in there. It's always crush. You bottom it out, and then how much more do you want to go? Bottom it out, and then go 1 thousandths, 2 thousandths, and just crush. And if you've got a good tune on your rifle, that'll just bring your groups right in. If you've got a good tune already, and then you do that test, you'll see where the sweet spot is. It's kind of like running a neck tension test. You'll see where the sweet spot is with your neck tension test. But I'll say that's the last test that I do. And I've already done it for both of mine. I don't keep rerunning it because I already kind of know where the sweet spot is. But that's what I would say. I mean, I don't want to say what it is, because all my calibers are different. So, it just depends on what caliber you're shooting. So, for me, I found that the 6mm small rifle primers don't have to be crushed as much as the large rifle primers. So take that for whatever it's worth, and go test in your own rifle and see what you can come up with. Need to go. We'll finish watching later. Right on. Thanks for joining. Good questions. Gives me something to talk about instead of just random talk. So anybody else got any questions out there? It'd be good. But, good first live. I'm glad so many guys showed up for it, just without any warning at all. I might do another one on maybe on Sunday evening or something like that, and uh, give a notice so more guys may be home after the work day on the weekend there to be able to join in. I'm not sure if Sunday morning or Saturday morning be good. People will be running off to matches, but maybe in the evening time, people have time to watch. Just thinking about it anyway. So, yeah. Yeah, let me know how your matches went out there over the last couple of weeks. You gaining anything with what I've been saying? Or am I just all wet like the rest of the internet? So, how much neck clearance in chamber? Well, like I said, every caliber is different, so you got to test. I showed you in one of my videos, how to do that. You just start turning the necks, start tight, like 1,000 clearance, turn 5 more, 2,000 clearance, turn 5 more, 3,000 clearance, turn 4,000 clearance, 5,000 clearance, 6,000 clearance, as much clearance as you think you might need. You turn 5 cases each of those deals, take them out and shoot them, and it'll tell you. I mean, my 6 is different from my 7, and my 7 is different from my 30 caliber. So they're all different. So whatever you're shooting, whatever, I don't know what your reamer is. I don't know how tight your necks are. I don't know exactly what to tell you, but I know what works for mine. Every time I get a new reamer, every time I go to a new caliber, that's the first test I run. I want to know. So I don't turn a whole bunch of case necks wrong. I want to know what to turn them to begin with. So trim length, what for cases? Trim length? Like I said before, my trim length for my cases, I measure a case when it's brand new, and that's what it stays at for the life of the case. I don't let them grow. I don't trim them shorter. Whatever they are brand new, that's where they stay. So as they get longer, I trim them back to the original spot where they were brand new. And that's just what I do. I haven't found the need to let them grow out. I heard some guys saying they let them grow all the way to the end, but I don't do that. I just trim them right where they are brand new. Have a good one, Rocky. Thanks, Chris. I hope I'm keeping it real and giving you guys straightforward answers. I'm came back from nationals. A lot of guys are asking for help and getting kind of discouraged. And I hate anybody to get discouraged and not keep shooting and not let the sport keep thriving. And so I'm trying to help out. I mean, I've already won enough times that if I win more, that's great. But if some new guys come along and get better at this by me helping them out, it'll just put a big smile on my face, because I'd like to see the sport grow. And having some guys holding on to their information so tight and giving bad information out there, and I've seen a lot of that. That's all I can say. I've seen a lot of that. That's why I'm trying to give out some straightforward answers on here, and hopefully some guys will get better. I'm hoping. And if you guys get better and let your friends know, they can tune in and pay attention to, and hopefully everybody will get better out there. And if you're a better shooter and you show up at nationals and give me some real stiff, good competition, it just makes it all the more fun. I mean, if the top 20 guys are just shooting right there, and then it really it makes it exciting and it makes it fun. So that's what I like. Good competition, good guys, have a good time. Everybody's having a good time out there bullshitting away. And then the only time you really got to be serious is when you're sitting right there at the bench and you're staring down at your flags. But then you get down, hey, it's back to shooting the shit and having a good time. So I'm hoping some of you guys would come on out, next year's nationals. Not sure where it's going to be. I'll let you know as soon as I know. They just voted me in as the long range director, but that doesn't really change that. I don't know any darn thing, because what happens is as far as where the next nationals go, if a club wants to host a national, they got to submit to the NBRSA and put it in writing that they want to host it. So all the clubs that want to host it will submit their deal, and then the NBRSA board decides where it goes. So I don't decide. The only thing I do is help coordinate. That's it. So no, it's all out of my hands. I bet I'll let you know when they all decide where it's going. Right now, it's probably between Medford and California, Sacramento. That's probably where it's going to be. So uh, there's only a couple of ranges that are equipped to do 1,000 yards and 600 yards both. And so they're kicking around the idea of possibly shooting 1,000 yards in one place and the 600 in another, so we can introduce more clubs into the nationals. But I'm not sure if that's ever going to pass or get changed. So right now, it's pretty much two places in the NBRSA. That is, I mean, IBS is in the east, and they got their own league going, but NBRSA is run that way. So I'm just learning a lot from you. Keep up the good work. Right on. Thanks, AG. And that's pretty cool. Dust. Enjoy your videos. Keep them coming. Right on. I will. Got a couple more I just made up from this weekend. Showed you how bad I shot. Like I said before, I use these local matches to try new things, and sometimes I'm trying something that works great. And this weekend, it didn't work so good. So it's the way it goes. You know, you keep on plugging away. Not every change I make is perfect. So I learned real quick. You know, first match out, and I go, oh man, that didn't work. So that's good. You can sort out the bad stuff, keep the good stuff, and keep on plugging away. So next month I won't be shooting that again. I know that. I'm not exactly positive. I changed too many things. That's the problem. You know, I highly recommend only changing one thing at a time, so you know if it worked or not. Well, this match I put a new barrel on. I tried a new powder and a new bullet all at the same time, and it didn't work. It just didn't work at all. So I think I came in dead last place in the Benchrest match, but it was a learning experience, and yeah, it was okay. It happens sometimes. I think shooting technique videos would be great. Well, I think we understand it until we sit down at the bench. Yeah, that's the other half of this thing. I mean, developing your load is one thing. That's the first thing. Get your rifle to shoot. But if you can't shoot it, long way to go. So it's kind of like me right now starting out in F class. I know my rifle's shooting good. I've tested it and it's shooting good. But I get out there and laying down and 30-mile-an-hour winds howling along. Yeah, it was an eye opener this weekend. You know, how hard could it be to just one shot at a time put them in? Yeah, well, when that wind's howling along like that, it makes it a challenge. It was really good. I mean, I was happy though. Over there in that hard wind, I came in second place. I mean, it was just kind of one shot off the lead, but it's more about the local matches for me are more about meeting new people, having a good time, and always relate it to golf. I used to try to golf when I was younger, and every time I started keeping score, I start trying harder and trying harder and trying harder, and it just got worse and worse and worse because you get all worked up and get pissed off and everything. And I learned that if I threw the scorecard away on the first hole and just went out and golfed and had a good time and bullshitted with my buddies and had a few beers and had a good time, I had a great time. But in a minute, I kept started keeping score. Everything went to hell. So I kind of look at Benchrest and F class the same way. I just don't worry about the score. Go out and do the best you can. And after it's all done, then go look over there and see how well you did. And I'm almost positive the last 3 years in Benchrest at Nationals, I was the last one to walk over to see who won. And it was just like, there's always a big crowd over there, and buddies, and I'm just about it. I'm usually talking with somebody. And this year I was talking to Bill Johnson. Bill Johnson was the long range chairman, and he's retiring. And so I stepped up to take that. And so he was talking to me all about the duties I've got to do and everything. And so after we got done talking and everything, I finally wandered over there and looked and saw it won. I was like, wow, I didn't know that I won. I was in fifth after day one. I didn't. The shooters that were ahead of me were just like, oh man, I'm gonna have a hard time catching those guys that shot really well on the second day and pulled it off. So it's it's just not one. It's not just one target or one day. It's the overall cumulative ags that determine. So don't get discouraged if you have a bad day. Just keep your head down, keep on plugging, and hang in there. Every target can change the way it goes. What else we got going here? Bart has a great technique video. Yeah, I've seen that. Bart's video that he's got on, I'm not sure if it's YouTube. I think it is YouTube, of him slamming rounds down. That's what I strived for when I first started. That video's been up for quite a while. And when I was learning to shoot, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, I was watching him and I was trying to get up to shoot as fast as he was doing, because some of the guys were telling me, you get the rounds off faster, the wind will hold only so long. And if the wind holds for 10 seconds and you can get your shots off in those 10 seconds, then, your group's going to be really good. So another part that I'm still working on is when I'm shooting my rounds and all of a sudden I see the wind flats pick up or lay off right in the middle of my round. The really good guys been doing it a long time. They can adjust and keep on firing. And so I'm still working on that part of it. I've been doing real good at getting them off fast if the wind doesn't change. But that darn wind, it's unpredictable. So I think shooting technique videos would be great. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put some more shooting techniques out there, I guess. And I've got a couple of videos coming from this weekend. I shot the match in Portland that I didn't do so well, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. I've got a little too much powder in there. In practice, I don't shoot hundreds of rounds. I just shoot enough to get my load right. And then I get to the match, and all of a sudden you've got 50 rounds down the barrel, and everything's heating up. And all of a sudden you find out that you're getting some heavy bolt lift in there because everything's heated up. And that's stuff that I learned in matches. Okay, that load's too hot. I need to back it down to the next mode. So I have an easy, free, bolt going. And if I back it down to the next node, I got to see if the accuracy's still there, or if it all goes away. And that's all trying new powders, seeing if it works. Thought it was going to work okay, but I found out in the middle of the match, no, it's not going to work. So that's the way that goes. So that's why that match didn't go too well, but that's all right. So I learned a lot for next time. All right, guys. Well, I've been on here for darn near an hour and a half. I think that's probably enough for the first time out here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I think, like I said, I think I'm going to try a Sunday evening maybe next time. If you guys got any suggestions on the best time, but that's what I was thinking. Sunday evening, guys are home, not working, and not at matches anymore. So, but thanks for tuning in. Lower nodes are more consistent for sure. Well, yeah, that's been my experience. Get up there too hot, and then all of a sudden I can't shoot the rifle because I can't cycle the bolt fast enough. And, disturb the rifle and you start yanking on it, and then your sight pickers go down, and then it takes a while to get back on target. And yeah, none of that stuff helps at all in Benchrest. So, but anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm gonna go. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see y'all next time.